Welcome to the Headley Highlight Show's Headley Headspaces. The Headspaces are a series of thoughts and musings I have during the course of the week, and I chew all over them, and I bring them to you. And this week's Headspace is called Elon Musk, South Africa's Land Exploration Bill, and President Trump. Who is really setting the foreign policy agenda for his administration? Let's discuss. So in my previous Headspace, I put forward the hypothesis or suggestion that President Trump has been captured by the donor class who helped to put him into office. And I referenced his suggestion to effectively buy Gaza. Effectively, America would own it and rebuild it and remove the Palestinians in the process whilst doing it. And I said this was an incredible suggestion, could only be put forward by somebody with an equally incredible mind in that regard, which was Mr. Netanyahu and his backers. Henceforth, they have been backing Mr. Trump, and he's now come with the proposal. Similarly, Mr. Trump, I think, is in hock to the tech oligarchs, the techocracy, that also helped to fund his party, and this is my second example. So, all of a sudden, Mr. Trump has asked or suggested that there needs to be an investigation into South Africa in relation to its land exploration bill. Even before we dissect this point, a number of questions need to be asked. One, what is the jurisdiction of America to investigate a sovereign nation like South Africa? Doesn't South Africa have its own courts, its own judiciary, its own constitution, which if breached they would investigate? They don't need an external party? I thought so. So that in itself is incongruous and incredible. But dusting that aside, because this is the presidency of Mr. Trump has said that South Africa needs to be investigated. They have withdrawn aid, which invariably hits their social programs, on the basis that Mr. Ramaphosa, the democratically elected leader of South Africa, is somehow acting inappropriately or illegally, yet to be proven, because he's initiating a land reappropriation program, note the language, reappropriation program, from the 7% of the mainly white population who own 70% of the land mass in South Africa. And part of the legacy of the breaking down of apartheid was the redistribution of land in a fair and equitable fashion. Hence the actual bill, the Exploration Bill, which gives an opportunity for the South African government basically to, it's not seizing land because they have to be compensated, they appropriate land with agreement from those landowners and they're compensated. And that's the point of it. But all of a sudden, Mr. Trump is exercised by this. I mean, doesn't he have things to be exercised about domestically? But clearly not, because I mean, that's what the American public did actually, vote for you. They wanted you to focus on a domestic agenda. However, the donor class around Mr. Trump have other ideas. And this is the reason why I am saying this, that he's been captured by the donor class. So let's look at this more closely. Elon Musk, who is originally from South Africa and also wants to launch his satellite in South Africa, Starlink, is in negotiations with the South African government for access to that particular airspace, because Starlink does provide satellite services to other parts of Africa. However, Mr. Ramaphosa said, if you wish to provide us with this service, thank you, and we'll enjoy that, but you have to partner with a South African company and they will own 50% of the shares and control of that company. And unsurprisingly, Mr. Musk said, thank you, but no thank you. Now, Mr. Musk is in a very prominent position in Mr. Trump's administration. His latest adventures investigating the costs associated with the United States Agency for International Development, brought him huge amounts of airtime this week. This is the department where the money goes in and there's absolutely no understanding where it goes afterwards. I think it's used to destabilize lots of governments. But moving aside, the point is Mr. Musk is in a very influential position in the Trump administration and helped to get him elected. And I think he is using his influence in this instance. So effectively, the techocracy class around Mr. Trump is dictating his foreign policy, in my opinion. Also, another factor about the donor class and their influence on Trump is the fact that South Africa has been very influential in forcing the Hague and the international community to recognize Israel as a war criminal. They were the ones who took them to the Hague. And recently, a group called the Hague Group formed, and South Africa was part of it. It's a collection of 9 countries, came into being on the 31st of January 2025. And the Hague Group is a group of 9 nations convened at The Hague to announce a coordinated legal, economic, and diplomatic measures against Israel. Now, why it's important is because who's in the Hague Group? South Africa's in there. So effectively, the donor class around Trump are pressuring him, in my opinion, to put pressure on South Africa because of the work that South Africa is doing in support of the Palestinians. There we go again. Example number 2 of the donor class capture of Trump and them dictating his foreign policy agenda. Another piece of the jigsaw is about the donor class's influence on Trump to act on a BRICS member. South Africa is part of BRICS as one of the, large full partners. And much of these new BRICS countries are looking to trade with themselves in electric cars. Any action that could be taken to destabilize South Africa, such as withdrawing aid or imposing tariffs, will help to weaken the country, making them less able to resist the influx of American tech companies into their information space, guaranteeing to pollute it with misinformation, which is their stock and trade. And therefore, your techocracy around you, that tech oligarch group, namely Mr. Musk, can put pressure on you. Let's not forget, and when he's got his Tesla car, he wants to be able to sell that everywhere. And if you can create the circumstances into which you and your product have better access to that market, then often you do that. So what's your thoughts about this? Are you South African? What do you think of how Mr. Ramaphosa has handled the whole situation? And apparently the South African government has not even been formally written to. This stuff was on X. Talk about disrespect. You don't even have to write to the people. You just have to put it on X that we're coming. I mean, come on now. You want to just drop him a DM saying that, yeah, we don't like what you're doing, so we're going to take your country to court. Anyway, so what's your thoughts about it? What's your 2 pence, your 3 cities, or your declining dollar price? What's your view about the Trump administration being captured by donors, be they Zionist donors or tech donors or private equity finance donors? What's your thoughts about that? Jump up, don't be shy. Don't forget you can catch it on the replay, and it's also available on my website at denisehedley.com, where you can donate as well and make a donation. And last week, oh my God, I got the biggest donation I've ever got. Somebody gave me £50. I was like, OMGG. So yes, please do make a donation. I need a new laptop. See you next week and cut.